The feeling that gaming isn't as fun anymore has been a notion that has been going around on YouTube and forums for the last couple of years. Everyone has their own take on why they think this is happening to everyone. Some people blame corporate greed, others blame competitive players and esports, and some attribute it to just growing up and not enjoying the same things that you used to. While all of these different viewpoints are logical reasons, I want to take it a step further because I think it's a combination of everything that gets brewed up into the perfect storm. But in order to understand that, we need to go back to 2007.
Oh, crazy fool. Why do you always jump? One of these days, you're gonna land on something as stubborn as you are.
Halo 3 gets mentioned a lot in videos covering this topic, and rightly so. Halo used to be one of the most popular franchises in all of gaming, so there was a lot of hype around it and an enormous community. But since I can't speak for everyone's experience, I will just cover my own. So we need to jump 2 years ahead to 2009.
That lone wolf stuff stays behind. Clear? Got it, sir. Welcome to Reach.
Halo Reach was the first game that I purchased for the Xbox 360, and I was so excited to finally play a shooter. It took a lot of convincing my parents to let me have a game that was rated M for mature. Do they even still do that? I don't know. I played the campaign so many times, but I really enjoyed the multiplayer aspect. I loved being able to play against others, not just in a competitive setting, but just having fun in custom games or modes with friends. Now, I won't say that I wasn't trying hard at this game. I definitely have always been competitive, but as a teenager, I wasn't really trying to get better per se. I just wanted to have fun, and sometimes that meant getting better at Slayer, and other times it meant making sure that I sacrificed my buddy in Infection by leaving him to fend for himself against the zombie horde. This was prime gaming, at least for me at that point. Not only was I getting into gaming as a whole, but like I referenced earlier with the Halo community, there were a lot of different aspects about it that made it so enjoyable. The main contributor of that feeling for me was the company Rooster Teeth. They had a great show called Red vs. Blue, which to this day is one of the best machinima content pieces ever produced.
There he is! Spanish Inquisition! Someone's been torturing him!
I don't think so, sir. He kind of looks like a scarecrow.
Savages!
At least until season 11. The first 10 seasons were definitely the best.
I think I'm starting to like her. At least better than I did before.
Yeah, she grows on you.
Still scary though.
Oh yeah, plenty scary.
Another show that Rooster Teeth had on their YouTube channel was probably my favorite. It was Halo Reach Fails of the Week, hosted by Jack and Jeff from Achievement Hunter. They would showcase some of the best and worst campaign and multiplayer fails submitted by the Halo community. I looked forward to this every single week because it gave me new ideas of how to play the game and how to potentially troll my friends in Firefight.
That was a dick bounce, Jeff. We haven't seen one of these in a while.
Oh,
And
where is it? Where is it?
Right there.
Right in the dick. Dude, I'm happy to see the return of the dick bounce. We've seen hardly any dick-related fails in a while.
Now, there's always been an element of competitiveness and just dumb fun, and I think that's something that cannot be missed when talking about this subject. And this is where things get interesting.
Especially with that window coming up. I can hear that punch charging up. There it is. Shu saving his life for just a fraction of a second there as the sticky bombs landed on top of him.
There's a good amount of people out there who blame esports and competitive players for why gaming isn't as fun anymore, which I think on a surface level could make sense, but the more I look into it, the more disingenuous I think it is. Competitive tournaments have been going on since before I was even able to hold a controller. Esports was just a small thing back in the early 2000s, and it didn't really pick up popularity until the early to mid 2010s. Things that come to mind specifically were the Halo tournaments, specifically the Halo Championship Series. But circling back, they have always had competitive players in video games. There have always been players that have a better understanding or can pick up certain mechanics of a game faster than the majority of players. The people who wanted to compete would sign up for tournaments and LAN events, and that was essentially all that happened. Maybe you got a couple $100, maybe even $1,000 at a bigger event, but competitive gaming has always been around since gaming has been around, or should I say since multiplayer gaming has been around. So where do esports fit into all of this? Esports, like I said, picked up popularity about 10 years ago. Ever since then, it has become a major juggernaut in gaming. However, this is not the fault of competitive players. This is the direct result of companies realizing that they can monetize a league just like in any other sport. If you could indulge me for a minute and step into the world outside of video games and talk football and the NFL. Football was around before the NFL, and there were always going to be people who were better at football than others. Now, depending on if you're a sports fan or not like myself, you may not have an opinion on the modern state of the NFL landscape, but your average fan is not going to say that football is ruined because the NFL was created. If there's anything negative to be taken away from the NFL, the network itself and some of the club owners realize that they can make a killing off of these athletes and fans will eat it up. And that's just the way it is, not just in football, but in any other major sport that's televised. Football was always meant to be a fun sport. That's why you played pickup football as a kid, but to say competitive players ruined gaming is like saying professional NFL players ruined football. That is misguided to say the least. Companies like Blizzard and Electronic Arts saw the opportunity to make more money by throwing more money at players' inherent need for competition, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it becomes problematic if the game that was originally designed for people to come together and have fun turned into a game where if you don't run the meta build or spend hundreds if not thousands of hours in a game, you just won't enjoy yourself. I made a video recently about why I'm addicted to competitive games. I love playing ranked modes and will always continue to do that because I like competing. I think that's fun personally, but I know that I'll never be a pro player or come up with guides about how to reach the top rank. But I appreciate having a mode where I can compete in, and I also appreciate having a mode where I can blast grunts with a fuel rod and firefight. So with that being said, you could very easily make the case that the overemphasis on competitive gaming from a fundamental company standpoint is what makes gaming not fun anymore, but that is only one piece of the pie.
The gas can they have near the fire is very dangerous. Randomness, thanks for coming to member.
I have seen a lot of people talk about this as well, but I think it gets overlooked a little bit. Streaming video games has definitely changed the way we as players view a game and view our own individual skill. To be a popular streamer, you have to either be good at a game, be funny, or be good and funny, or my personal favorite, be bad and funny, but sometimes kind of good. I feel like that's where I would fall when it comes to those categories. Streaming, like esports, has dominated gaming over the last 5 to 8 years and shows no signs of slowing down. Because in a way, without minimizing the hard work and dedication that these streamers have put in, the business model for this is very straightforward. Monetizing video games is super easy because of how many people enjoy it. All you're doing is playing a game and coupling that with a personality that connects with viewers, and before you know it, you have an audience and a way to make money. Again, that is a gross oversimplification of streaming. I used to make money from streaming, then I realized that wasn't something that I wanted to do with my life long term, so I stopped. So you might be asking, why is this relevant? Why is streaming a part of why I don't enjoy my favorite game anymore? If you're in the competitive scene or just multiplayer PvP, this is probably going to hit a little close to home for you, but it still could apply to other games. Typically, if you're watching a streamer, they're most likely a lot better at the game than you, and you're either entertained by watching them or you're watching them because you want to learn how to get better. And again, there's inherently nothing wrong with that, but what happens is that people get lost and forget why they even wanted to get better at the game to start with. Streaming is kind of glorified as a way to make money and escape your 9 to 5, which a lot of people would want to do. I myself had this phase where I just wanted to stay home and be a full-time streamer. There are all these young people who are abandoning their schoolwork and focusing on streaming. Guys, I'm not here to make a judgment call. I was a terrible student and I did the same thing as a teenager. I would just play games all day and ignore my schoolwork. But the point that I'm trying to make now is that in 2024, everyone wants to be a freaking streamer. Everyone wants to make YouTube videos and make money. And because you have so many people wanting to do this activity, it automatically puts pressure on them to become really good at a game and removing the fun element of why they were playing in the first place. I'm going to put streamer and YouTuber into the same category, though I think there are slight differences. And once you combine the pursuit of income with something that you enjoyed doing when you weren't even making income from it previously, it becomes a bit of a recipe for disaster if not handled correctly. This happened to me a couple of times. For any new viewers, I used to make content about a particular MMO, and that's all I would upload. I would be afraid to branch out and make new content that I wanted to because I was worried about my videos not doing well for the algorithm, or I was worried that since my other videos didn't match the same stuff as before, I wouldn't make as much money, so I put off switching the content. That example alone took a lot of enjoyment out of gaming for me. I wanted to make content that I was passionate about, which is videos like this, but I was so concerned earned with money that I kept playing one game over and over and over again because I knew it would get easy views and I could keep the gravy train of $50 a month ad revenue going. I know I was a high roller, call me Leonardo freaking DiCaprio. Before there were a lot of different YouTubers and streamers who were just good at a game, there were people who were just good at video games. And that was that. If you would go over to your friend's house and have a Halo tournament, you would easily figure out who was better and who wasn't that good. That good player wasn't uploading their content to YouTube telling people how to get better at Halo 3. Well, I'm sure there was a few, but there definitely weren't that many, you know what I mean. It seems like now in every game, people are making content for two reasons. One, it's because they enjoy the game and they want to share it online. No problem there at all. The second reason is because they eventually want to monetize it. Again, not a big deal, but it can be problematic in your gaming experience. But what about the gamers who aren't streamers or YouTubers? Why aren't they having fun in video games anymore? Well, honestly guys, I think it's a combination of all of the things we just went over in the video. The changes that companies have made fundamentally impact everyone who plays their game. If you're a casual player who wants to enjoy themselves and not worry about getting super sweaty, it can be very frustrating when a game you're interested in seems to already have been wrapped up in some type of esport or competitive scene. Part of what made gaming so fun was that every gamer could enjoy something in their own way. The games were not designed to be competitive, they were designed to be fun. And because naturally there are going to be competitive people and players who have a better knack for the game than others, that is where competitiveness is born from. That is real competitive gaming. Games like Halo 2, Halo 3, and Halo Reach were not built to be competitive games. They were made to be enjoyed by a variety of players, and a certain category of players, being people like myself who like competitive and ranking, found tournaments and organize those. But nowadays, it's really hard for players who don't enjoy that type of content to still enjoy the game as a whole. Now you might be typing in the comments, oh my god, Noble, there's a competitive mode and then there's a non-competitive mode. That should clear the problem right up. And my counter argument to that is that everyone knows that your unranked playlists are sometimes even sweatier than the ranked playlists. And I'll give you an example. 4 years ago, I got into the Valorant closed beta, and after playing it, I didn't touch it until about a month ago. I watched videos on what agents would be best suited for someone who doesn't have a ton of skill and is just looking to learn. I played a lot of deathmatch and swift play game modes, and in those unrated modes, I was constantly getting berated for missing shots and not understanding how different agents counter each other and not knowing various maps and abilities. Now, I'm not new to this type of thing, so I didn't engage with those people, but if someone hasn't experienced this before, it can be a real turnoff and it can make the game not as enjoyable, obviously, because when you're trying to learn in an area where you're supposed to learn, but even in those spaces where you're trying to get better, you still get berated. So why bother? I could make a whole separate video on this topic, but I will save that for another time. I hope that the point that I was trying to make has gotten through to you though. In the early days of multiplayer, this was not an issue. There would be times where your team would get steamrolled, and then there would be times when your team would be doing the steamrolling. And I don't want this video to be a place where people just talk about the skill-based matchmaking situation, another video for another time, but it's important to mention that some of these games and the way they implement skill-based matchmaking is part of the reason why the everyday gamer can't really have as much fun. This is why I believe that casual games, or games being made for the specific reason of the fun element, need to have a massive comeback. I would be really happy if 343 in the next Halo game made a game for players to explore either campaign or multiplayer, but have that same level of fun involved. Not the need to get competitive, to explore cool weapons and cool places, and if competition is born from that, that's great. If not, also great. Because at the end of the day, I think that the biggest component of why games aren't fun anymore is because they aren't even being made to be fun. They are being made solely for money before being shut down or floated off into obscurity. So is there a solution to this problem? The only solution that I can recommend is that I would just try to remember that there is a life outside of video games. I know we use games as a distraction from real life, especially when things aren't going that well. And if that's the case for you right now, and if you're looking to escape reality with games, I would tell you to play whatever game you want. If you want to play Valorant, play that. If you want to play Halo or Overwatch, play that. One of the things that I would try to avoid is getting caught up in some community aspects. I'll explain real quick. Sometimes we stop enjoying games because we grow out of them and our interests change. That's natural and a normal part of life. Other times we stop enjoying games because we get so caught up in them and they become unenjoyable. I stopped paying attention to community drama and patch notes because I realized that it didn't play a role in my positive enjoyment of a game. I found myself getting annoyed more often than not and wanting to type angry comments about why some YouTuber was wrong for this one particular build video. I'm not saying avoid watching your favorite YouTuber. Please don't stop watching me. I'm saying be careful not to take everything online so seriously. Sure, your favorite hero in Overwatch may have gotten nerfed into the ground, Doomfist, and may not be considered meta, but then you have to ask yourself, are you still having fun? If you're still having fun on the character, then keep playing. If you still enjoy the type of game you're playing or the abilities, keep playing. And if at any time you stop enjoying those features, it's okay to take a break or give it up entirely. That is the most important component of making video games more enjoyable. Video games are not your job. You don't have to play them every day, and you certainly don't have to make it to Grandmaster to be considered a good player. This is just one form of entertainment. The sun continues to rise and set whether you're playing competitively or just trying to enjoy the game in a different way, whether it's making maps for fun in Halo or mystery heroes in Overwatch. I hope you guys enjoyed this little deep dive on why I think games aren't that fun anymore for most people. I personally find myself enjoying maybe 2 or 3 games at this stage in my life, and those game selections will probably change as I get older, or maybe I'll just grow out of games entirely, but that is a long way off. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and if not, that's okay. I will see you in the next one. Later on.